Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for this delayed start. We have some technical glitch, which because of the online thing, but it's now sorted. So, very warm welcome to all of you to the third day of the session under MSME Week 2023. This session will be today focusing on access to finance for MSMEs, and we will be having three presentations today. And to So we would like to first, invite Amit Datta, who's from the Invoice Mart, to give his presentation. The person who's representing IFC would be joining a little later. Hence, I request Amit to give his presentation on Threads platform. Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Deepakji. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank Vicky for having us here. So, uh, being the MSME week, how our platform is assisting the MSME, we are going to cover that today. So, I'm just sharing my screen. Please let us know once it is visible at your end.
Yeah, it's visible.
Thank you, Deepakji. So, we go by the concept called TREDS. TREDS essentially stands for Trade Receivable Discounting System. This is an online platform which facilitates the MSME vendor payments. So we'll be first covering the genesis of this product, why it was conceived and how it was conceptualized, and how it has been assisting the MSME vendors in realizing the payments in a decent fashion where they are getting payments early, which is helping their cause. So we have a MSME Act in place, which says that if any MSME vendor invoices to any corporate, the invoices post acceptance by that corporate should be paid within 45 days post acceptance. Invariably, there was an instance where the corporate used to delay the payments to the MSME vendors, because of which the financial health of the MSME vendors used to suffer. So this was the prime pain point why a platform like ours was incorporated. So the platform was conceived and the genesis was done by the Reserve Bank of India during the tenure of Mr. Raghuram Rajan, when he was at the helm of affairs at the Reserve Bank of India. He, along with his team, was pretty aware that there is a dire concern where the MSMEs have not been receiving payments in time, which they are bound to get as per the provisions of the MSME Act. So they were looking for a solution whereby the MSME payments can be received in time, because even with this delayed payments, the MSMEs contributed more than 30% to the GDP at that point of time. So the objective was that if the MSMEs are empowered and they get a payment in time, that will help them in procuring more, producing more, and thus contributing to the GDP in a better manner. So because of this pain point, it was decided that a platform would be created whereby the MSME vendors can be paid digitally, whereby they can get it before time or at least on time, which will help their financial cause. So our TREDS guidelines were issued in 2014, and Axis Bank, which is our promoter, applied for this license. The in principle licenses were granted in 2015, which Axis Bank received, and there was a joint venture which Axis Bank did with a B2B platform called M Junction in 2016, whereby our company was incorporated, which goes by the name of A-Trades Limited. We are a RBI approved and a RBI regulated entity. So whatever actions our platform takes has to be in lines with the prescriptions given by the Reserve Bank of India. So we had to comply to all the requirements, what was laid out by them. And we took almost a year to comply to all the things. And then we applied for the application that we are ready to go live. RBI took their stock and checked all the processes which were to be done before the go live approval was given in June 2017, and we went live in 2 weeks post the approval received from the Reserve Bank of India. That was when our first invoice was discounted. So we'll first cover as to what the platform does and how we assess the MSME vendor. So as I said, we are governed by the Reserve Bank of India. And our online platform assists the MSME vendors in converting their domestic trade receivables into liquid funds for them. Thus, they can get a payment quickly, which will help their financial position. So our platform would be registering three entities. First is the corporate buyer, which actually procures from the MSME vendor. Second, obviously, is the MSME vendor who supplies the goods and services to these corporates, and financiers. These are banks and NBFCs which have registered on our platform, who are coming and financing these invoices. And ultimately, these banks are financing them, and the proceeds are received directly to the seller's account or the vendor's account. So as I was saying that we are promoted by the Axis Bank, which is the third largest private bank in India. Uh, and obviously they have strong inclination of lending to the MSME franchise. They understood the pain points which the MSME face. Thus, they were able to contribute in a much better manner on coming up with a platform like this, which can assist the MSME vendors. So Axis Bank holds 67% stake in our company. The remaining 33% is held by a company called M Junction. M Junction is a 50-50 joint venture of Tata Steel and Steel Authority of India Limited. So M Junction is essentially a B2B e-commerce platform, whereby whenever Tata or SAIL needed any procurement, they simply put the requirement on their this platform of theirs, and the vendors who are registered there used to quote the rates at which they wanted to supply to these two organizations. So an auction used to run on this B2B platform, whereby the vendors who quoted the least rate used to win the orders. Something similar to that happens on our platform as well, where the banks would be fighting for these invoices in order to finance it. We'll be showing how the platform works in the subsequent slides. So this is what InvoiceSmart does. It connects the MSME vendors with their buyers and financiers who would be discounting or financing these invoices. So under normal circumstances, whenever the seller invoices the goods or services, the invoice would be reaching their corporate buyer. And once the invoices are accepted at the buyer's end, the vendor used to get the payment as per the purchase order terms, most likely on the due date, which was there in the contract or the purchase order which was issued to that vendor. InvoiceSmart here helps in enabling the MSME vendors to get an early payment for those invoices, and they need not wait till the end of the due date to get their payments. So once these invoices are available at the buyer's end, these invoices can be listed on our platform. So our platform goes by the name of InvoiceSmart. So it's simply a website where the invoices can be uploaded by the buyer or the MSME seller, and these invoices would become visible to the banks, the financiers which are registered with us, and these banks will be looking to finance these invoices by quoting their specific rates. The rates can be accepted by the seller or can be accepted by the buyer, depending on the product which they have subscribed to. Moving ahead, these two are the products what we have to offer. First one goes by the name of factoring. Second one goes by the name of reverse factoring. Factoring is essentially subscribed by cash-rich companies, PSUs or MNCs who are not going to bear the interest cost for the transaction. Alternatively, reverse factoring transactions are used by borrowing corporates in India. So I will be explaining both these processes to the audience based on whichever suits the requirement of the buyer or the vendor. This subscription of that process flow can be taken ahead. So let's consider a hypothetical example that a seller has a payment term of 45 days with their respective corporate buyer. So normally what happens if the seller is invoicing, these invoices post reaching to the buyer, the seller has to wait till the end of the 45th day to get their proceeds, because that's what the purchase order said. The buyer is not going to release an early payment because there is no advantage to that corporate buyer as cash is going out of their books. So in this case, once the seller and the buyer is registered on InvoiceSmart, the seller can come and upload these invoices on our platform. Once the goods or the services along with the invoice copy reaches the buyer can come and verify the contents of the upload. They can validate whether the invoice number, the tenor, and the amount of invoice what has been uploaded is correct or not. In case the buyer feels that everything is correct, they can give a acceptance of this upload made by the seller at stage 2. Now, suppose the seller has uploaded this transaction of 1st of a particular month, and the buyer is accepting it on 10th of that month. So the moment the buyer gives a acceptance, this invoice becomes visible to these financiers on our platform. The financiers will try to win this invoice by quoting a particular rate of interest. The other bank can come and outbid that rate by quoting something lower than that. The third bank can again quote something lower than that, so on and so forth, till the time a best rate is discovered. We have generally seen that the best rate is generally discovered within a span of 4 to 5 hours, which is a sufficient time given by the corporate buyer or the MSME vendor to the banks to come and reach a rate which no one else could further bring it down to. Once the best available rate is visible, the seller can come and give acceptance of this rate. In case they don't like the rates, they can still wait out, else they can accept on the same day itself. So if the seller has given acceptance on day 10, the vendor gets paid in their account on day 11. That is, the financiers whose rate was accepted would be disbursing the funds to the seller's account on T+1 basis. That is the next working day. Now, in this example, you have seen that the vendor is getting their payments early by 35 days because this is being done on day 10 and the disbursement is being done on day 11. So the seller is the beneficiary here, and in that case, the seller can come and bear the interest cost for 35 working days as they are getting the early payment in this process flow. So whatever interest component is generated out of this 35 days, that much amount will get deducted from the gross invoice amount uploaded, and the vendor will be getting the net amount in their account on day 11 itself. Day 45, which was the original due date, the buyer would be paying this bank in order to settle out this transaction. So to the buyer, the ALM stays as it is. Earlier, the buyer used to pay the vendor on day 45. Now the buyer is paying the financier on day 45. So nothing changes at their end. But by adopting this procedure, the buyer has enabled a mechanism whereby the vendors can come and request for an early payment in lieu for the interest rate which they are going to bear for this tenor. The rate at which the seller is going to get their transaction financed is far more lucrative what the seller would have got from their working capital bankers. Because here the bank is assessing the creditworthiness, credit rating of the corporate buyer and not of the seller. So the stronger the corporate is rated, the finer the rates will be. Just to quote some examples, what we have experienced in the past, we have been working with lot many PSUs, AAA rated corporates, where the financing of their vendor invoices are happening close to the repo rates. So you can imagine the situation that an MSME vendor in India is getting unsecured finance without any collateral at 6.5%. Normally, the MSME vendors would be getting finance somewhere close to 10% with a hefty collateral coverage. But here, everything is at a very cheap rate of interest. So the vendors would be essentially laughing all their way to the bank. So this is what factoring has been doing, and they have been assisting the vendor community in getting early payments from their large corporates. Coming to the other process flow, which we call reverse factoring. In this case, the opposite process happens whereby the buyer, the corporate buyer which has procured the services or the goods, would be bearing the interest cost for this transaction. So in this process flow, the buyer would be uploading their invoices post the GRN, and the banks would be able to see the uploads, and then they will start their reverse auction by quoting their specific rates. The buyer would be now able to view the rates which has been listed by the various financiers, and based on their liking and the least rate available, the buyer would be accepting the bids. Post this, the seller gets the funds directly on the next working day, as in the previous process flow, that is on T+1 basis. So if you see in the second process flow, the role of the seller is restricted only to receiving the funds. They will get their credits and their invoice would be closed on the due date. So buyer gets an option to extend a credit here. So whenever the buyer is uploading a particular invoice, they get an option to defer the payment back to the bank for up to 180 days, for which they can bear the interest cost. So buyers generally use this process in case there is a cash flow mismatch at their end, because while the buyers sell their product, their cash would come generally in 3 to 4 months as per their payment cycle. But since they are procuring from an MSME vendor, they are bound to pay them within 45 days. So you will notice there is a cash flow mismatch happening here because the buyer is paying the vendor within 45 days, but their actual cash is going to come them after 90 to 120 days. So the tenor mismatch which is happening here, buyer would be utilizing it nicely on our platform, whereby they can go for a credit extension and they can bear the interest cost for that designated tenor. So by the time the cash comes from the sale of goods, uh, that cash can be used to pay the bank back. So once the buyer pays the financiers, the transaction gets closed. So you will see in both these transactions, the recourse is on the corporate buyer and not on the MSME vendor. So on the due date, it's the buyer's responsibility to pay the bank back. So in case the buyer defaults, it is between the buyer and the financier. There is no questions asked to the seller. Once they have got their funds in their account, no one can question them. This is as per the provisions illustrated by the Reserve Bank of India, whereby the recourse will always be on the corporate buyer and not on the MSME seller, which protects the interest of the seller that once the payment is received, there is no liability at their end. The buyers and the sellers are well aware about this concept when they are signing up with us. And based on their mutual agreement, the transaction keeps on getting culminated on our platform seamlessly. The next slide, if you see, essentially captures our credentials, what we have done from inception till date. First one, obviously, is our parentage. I said that we are promoted by the Axis Bank and M Junction, which is a JV of Tata Steel and Steel Authority of India Limited. Presently, we are working with more than 1,300 large corporates. These are a mix of PSUs, private sector companies, MNCs. About 56 banks have registered on our platform, which are financing these invoices. And as of now, there are about 21,000 MSME vendors across India who have registered on our platform and who are using our services in getting their invoices paid. As far as our geographical coverage is concerned, more than 1,000 cities have been covered, and more than 4,000 PIN codes have already been covered by our team in order to register a corporate buyer or their MSME vendors. Because generally we see that the corporate buyers would be located in a tier 1 or in a large city. But when you talk about their MSME vendors, they can be scattered across the nooks and corner of the country. We have a very strong feet on street team who would be traveling to these remote locations as well and would be registering these vendors so that they can come and participate on our platform so that their invoices can be paid. Our platform, most importantly, is completely digital in nature. So it eradicates the hassle which a corporate buyer or that MSME vendor has to encapsulate whenever they are looking for their payments. They don't need to carry any hard copies of these invoices or go to the bank to get it financed. Everything happens digitally on our platform, which eases the transaction flow and the volume of transaction which comes on our platform. We have also made a mobile app through which the vendor or the corporate buyer can take up transactions. We have generally seen that the MSME vendors, most of them are always on the go and are not always available at office. So this mobile app essentially helps them in a big way that they can do the transactions and complete the transactions even when they are not in office. Uh, uh, we are ISO 27001 certified and blockchain enabled, which ensures that no duplicate invoices can be uploaded on our platform and no double financing of a particular invoice would be facilitated on our website. Two key facts which we are very proud of is the number of invoices what we have financed till date, which is in excess of 18 lakh invoices as of now, and with almost 68% of them belonging to the micro and small enterprises. Presently, we have financed in excess of 63,000 crores, where the entire beneficiary was the MSME vendors. So the purpose for which the platform was incorporated, we have been slightly been able to reach success, and we have been able to assist the vendors in ensuring that they get their dues well in time. These are some of the key milestones for your reference. You will see that we went live in July 2017. So essentially, we are just close to a 6-year-old company. And within this short tenure, we have crossed 60,000 crores. So year-on-year growth, we have been very staggering. Like last year itself, we did about 28,000 crores worth of invoices financed. Prior to that, it was 14,000 crores. So we have seen a real pickup in the volume post COVID. Pre-COVID, where our peak invoice financing, what we were doing, that was around 425 to 450 crores on a monthly basis. Now we are easily crossing 33 to 3,400 crores on a monthly basis. So the volume has picked up very nicely. More corporates and more vendors have come on, and they have subscribed to the platform, and more invoices are being financed. These are some of the benefits for the participants, which I had covered during the flow of the presentation, but for the sake of repetition, I will be covering them once again. In case anyone has any doubts during the flow, they can always come back and ask questions. So the buyers, if they are using reverse factoring transactions, they essentially get a credit extension of up to 180 days, which is permitted by the Reserve Bank of India to cover their cash flow mismatch, if any. So generally, we have seen corporate buyers use their vendor finance programs, their working capital facilities to make payments to their vendors. But as far as their MSME vendors are concerned, they can treat us as an alternate and efficient method through which they can pay their vendors through our platform. The entire process which we do and the settlement which happens has to be done through NPCI, which assists and ensures that a seamless payments to the vendors takes place. So our platform takes this transaction and settles this transaction through an auto debit facility. So the recourse is enabled through that NACH mandate. On the due date, we'll be auto debiting the account of the corporate buyer, and the financier which had financed this transaction would be paid off. So this NACH essentially helps because it becomes an auto debit and no one has to keep a track. If the account is funded, the debit would be made automatically, which reduces the hassle of account not funded or a particular transaction not going through that particular day. We have now seen a process which is becoming popular by the day. Some corporate buyers are using our platform to make early payments to the MSME vendors, and they are essentially talking about a cash discount which a vendor can offer them in case of the early payment. So it's a bilateral negotiation which happens between the vendors and the corporate buyers, and if they agree to a solution, the vendor has to not wait till the due date to receive their proceeds. Even for reverse factoring transactions, the vendors will get a payment early. So the present national government has been very supportive of this product, and they have been promoting it throughout all the forums. Taking one step ahead, the government of India issued a gazette notification in 2018, where it mandated all corporates and central public sector enterprises and PSUs to come and do a mandatory registration on our platform. So the essential objective was that sizable corporates, which has a turnover of 500 crores, and it was perceived that the MSME procurement would be high in these companies, they were supposed to come and do a mandatory registration on our platform. Annual procurement, where 25% is earmarked for the MSME vendor. So that 25% procurement has to be done from the MSME community. So that also mandated the PSUs to come and do a registration. So we are working with large PSUs, oil PSUs across India who have been using the platform to good effect and are making early payments to the MSME vendors. Coming to factoring transactions, which are slowly and steadily increasing on our platform, where the MSME vendors are bearing the cost of this transaction and taking it forward. This is obviously helping their cash flows. The irony generally in India is that the MSME community doesn't get adequate bank finance at this juncture. There are various stipulations which have been illustrated by the banks, which includes adequate documentation, the vintage of that particular vendor, and most importantly, the collateral coverage. So not all vendors do have access to all these requirements which the banks asked for, because of which the financing doesn't happen to these vendors. So these vendors have to next go and approach the NBFCs and other money market lending institutions where the interest rate is even on a higher side. But when they subscribe to InvoiceMart, since the recourse and the credit assessment is done to the buyer, they get the advantage of getting this payment without any assessment being done at their end. Not to mention, there is no collateral or loan liability which comes with this particular transaction, because this facility is completely unsecured. And more buyers and corporates are using this so that their relationship within the vendors can also increase, because the more frequently they get payment, the vendor would be offering them better terms in their next round of invoicing, which actually helps the corporates as well. Next is the financiers as to why they are coming and subscribing to our platform. What's the value add what they are getting? First and the foremost value addition what they are getting is the classification of this financing portfolio which is happening on our platform gets classified under priority sector lending, PSL. So there is this stipulation given by the Reserve Bank of India that if a particular bank is lending X amount of funds in a financial year, a particular percentage of that portfolio has to be into priority sector lending loans, into that classification, which is capped at 40% at this point of time. So PSL is generally classified if funding is given to MSMEs, rural, agri, franchisees, institutions. So this is a mandatory lending which the banks has to do. Otherwise, RBI would be imposing penal actions on that corporate, on that bank, in case that 40% cap has not been reached. In order to achieve that, or if they miss their targets, the corporates have to subscribe to PSL certificates, or they have to buy the portfolio in case some bank has overachieved the portfolio for that particular financial year. Generally, we have seen that large private sector banks or PSU banks are able to achieve this requirement because of their geographical strength. They are spread across India and they have branches in rural locations as well. So they are able to meet this requirement. But when you talk about other small private sector banks, small finance banks, MNC banks, since they are working the mandatory requirement for them to achieve this PSL target, these banks are finding our proposition very fruitful, because here the assessment is being done on that corporate buyer and not that vendor. And we generally work with strong, large rated corporate buyers where the risk of default is minimal. So because of this, these banks find it very convenient in taking calls on the corporates which we are working with indirectly, which is generating the PSL portfolio out of them. So earlier, the RBI stipulation talked about that only banks and NBFCs which had got a factoring license can come and vendors. But there was a change which happened last year, which enabled other NBFCs also approval for doing transactions on our platform, subject to an approval which they needed to take from the Reserve Bank of India. So now we are seeing more NBFCs are coming and are using the platform to make the or finance the transactions. So the liquidity actually is increasing by the day. We'll not talk about the digital aspects of platform. Platform, as I said, is completely digital in nature. So we facilitate the registrations also digitally. The vendors and the corporate buyers, they can come and apply online and submit the details online. Initially, I said that our platform is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India, and all the registrations, what we do for the entities on our platform has to be in line with the standard RBI KYC norms. So which says that a proprietorship vendor can get registered through video KYC, whereby the proprietor can come and list their credentials, including their address proof and PAN numbers online, and all the documents can be procured on scan basis. This essentially saves time for everyone. The other constitutions, the likes of a partnership, LLP, private limited and limited, their documents can also be procured on scan, but we are mandated to do at least one mandatory site visit of that vendor's premises, which is in line with the RBI norms. The application form and the agreement which the vendors can sign happens digitally. So the agreement gets digitized and the recipient receives in a form of a mail, where it can be signed through their Aadhaar credentials or through their digital certificates, digital signature, sorry. Once the moment the vendor gets registered, the vendors will be getting their login credentials through which they can log in, and then they can access the platform. And now it is happening all the more that once a particular vendor gets registered for one particular corporate buyer, invariably we see that He's also supplying to other corporate buyers who already registered with us. So by registering once on our platform, they are getting multiple benefits of getting access to other corporate buyers. On our platform, we facilitate transactions through a maker and checker process. So two user IDs are generally created. So the maker can initiate the transaction and the checker has to conclude this transaction. This is done to ensure that there is no manipulation or fraud is minimized in case of any collusion activity. The fund would be credited directly to the seller's account and not to the buyer's account, as we explained you during the slide while presenting the process flow on factoring and reverse factoring. So the vendor is the beneficiary and their account will get credited. All the reports, assignments, and the notification which is available on the platform is triggered automatically by the platform through an email, and no manual transactions are generally done unless in case of any errors or in case of any requests which are made by the vendor. So this essentially ensures that the cycle of the digital transaction gets completed. In case any vendor finds any issue, we have a dedicated customer care team which can be reached through email or on phone, and their queries can be resolved. These are some of the case studies for your reference. I won't take much time here. How the platform has been assisting the vendors in realizing their payments. And essentially, they are assisting the banks, the corporate buyers, as well as the vendors for completing this transaction. Just to give one case study, there was a one small bank in South India which used to do transactions only for the corporates based in South India. When they saw a good rated corporate based from North on our platform, they were able to take calls on that company as well. And the vendor, which is based somewhere in some other location, where it was able to get this invoice financed, which was financed by this South-based bank. Now, this bank doesn't have any bilateral relationship with the buyer or the MSME vendor, but was still able to finance this transaction. So you will see that the platform was able to give a financial inclusion to all the entities involved, uh, the buyer, the vendor, as well as the financier. This is just the one-time digital onboarding, which can be subscribed by the vendors while registering. Can log in on our platform www.invoicemart.com and can choose the online option for registering and submit the documents. In case some vendor is not comfortable filling in the details online, we have an offline module as well, whereby they can request for our team. They will come down to their offices and they will assist them for the registration formalities. But increasingly, we have seen that the online module is being used more because it saves time. At the same time, it increases the rate and the pace at which the vendor can complete their registrations. The relevant KYCs as per the standard RBI KYC norms can be uploaded. The Udyam registration, which is a mandatory document at our end, which validates and confirms that the vendor which is being registered is a MSME vendor. The bank details can be provided in which the disbursements will be made. And once the agreements are signed, our internal team would be verifying the details submitted, and if all the details are properly filled up and the documents are properly submitted, the validation happens and the vendor gets registered, post which they immediately get their user IDs and passwords, and the vendors are ready to initiate transactions with us. So we'll request all the vendors who have been a part can come and subscribe to the facilities which we provide. They can also come and request and get to know if their corporate vendors are already registered with us, so that their transactions can be facilitated. As I said, we have a dedicated customer care team which is at the disposal of the vendors. They can call them anytime on the numbers provided. I will just repeat it. It's 022 6235 7373, and they are reachable at helpdesk@invoicemart.com for handling any queries, and in case any assistance is needed by any MSME vendor for registrations done. I would like to thank you all for there are any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit, for taking us through the presentation and also sharing the genesis as well as how A Trades is performing at this moment. If uh, since our majority of audience is logging in through Fiki Bike platform, I request them to kindly share their questions with the question button, which is on the right hand side of the our uh, login page, and they can share the questions for Amit here. Uh, I have one question here, which I wanted to ask in terms of how do you, Amit, basically take care of if there is, any what the risk of default, which we say, if a buyer defaults on their payment, and so how the financial is able to recover that amount, or who's the impacted party in that sense. So how does that default part is taken care in this?
Yes, sir. So I will answer your questions in two parts. First, how it affects the financier and how the assessment is done. So whenever we register any corporate buyer, and once that corporate buyer has given their interest or has shown interest in taking up transactions, we'll be requesting limits from all these banks which have registered with us. The banks will take an internal call, they will do an internal assessment, and based on their comfort, based on the documents available publicly for that buyer, their external credit rating, they will come up with an unadvised line of limits which are set up internally at the bank's end and is not classified and as a uh, loan in the books accounts of the corporate buyer. So the assessment first is done completely by the financier. The platform simply facilitates and arranges for any additional requirement which the bank seek. In case of any default which happens, which of two things. First is the external credit rating of the corporate buyer which we are working with. So we ensure that there is adequate due diligence which is done before any particular corporate buyer is registered. And uh, the default generally doesn't happen because of the auto debit facility what we have set up for that corporate buyer through the NACH mandate. So the NACH mandate for that corporate buyer is taken through their CC account, a working capital account, which invariably would be funded at most times because there is a limit associated to it. So on the due date, the NACH mandate gets debited and the financier gets credited, which has financed this transaction. So these two facts essentially takes care of the default not happening. But in worst case scenarios, we do have instances where the defaults have happened. But this was probably during the tenor of the pandemic, where the sale purchase pattern and the itself got changed to such a large extent where the sale couldn't take place or the funds had had happened. So RBI had provided a relaxation that point of time that one-time structuring can be done or an extension. Then it happens. Then we facilitate the recovery of funds from these buyers to the banks. We'll be in constant touch with the corporate buyer,
Okay.
and we keep on asking them or providing additional comfort whatever the banks ask for. And we generally see that if it happens for a small tenor, it happens generally for a technical reason or for some vague reason because of which the defaults happen. Otherwise, the platform essentially stays default free, sir. That's the good thing on the platform. Second part, the responsibility of the vendor. When I captured during the course of the presentation, I had once the vendor receives their proceeds, be it a factoring transaction, be it a reverse factoring transaction, even if the buyer defaults, there is no question asked with that MSME vendor. Once they have got their funds in their account, they are out between the bank and the corporate buyer which has done this transaction.
Okay. Okay. And you did mention in your presentation, being ISO certified, organization, you do take care of any kind of, those duplicate of fake invoices being submitted to avoid any risk of fraud happening on this platform.
That's
But
right.
is it like is it a RBI mandated thing that all trades platform need to take care of this, or it is just like A-Trades has taken initiative and to minimize the risk of fraud, or how do you take care of these fraud part of it, which I'm not saying that just prevailing too much, but yes, there have been instances where people have talked about
Right.
this. So how do I mean, you said that through this being an ISO certified organization, you are looking at, making sure that this happens. But because we are here also, while we are looking at, getting information from A-Threads, but we are generally talking about Threads platform here. So in general ecosystem, what is the process, or what is the way of minimizing these frauds?
So the initiative of adopting a blockchain technology was taken by the trades players itself. It was not a RBI mandate, and it was done essentially for two basic purposes. First, if a buyer is registered exclusively with any platform, what if a particular invoice gets uploaded twice with them? How that mechanism will be enabled, which ensures that invoice which has already been uploaded doesn't get uploaded, both with an accidental upload or through a malicious intent. Blockchain technology ensured that if a particular invoice is already in the system, a second upload is not permitted. That was internal to one platform per se.
Okay.
Imagine a situation where a particular corporate has registered on multiple trades platforms because RBI has granted license to others also, which are doing an activity similar to what we are doing. So in that case, how the safeguard matrix is provided in that instance? So what the trades exchanges did, that they formed a blockchain technology amongst them, and an encrypted ledger used to get created every time a particular invoice was uploaded. So if a particular buyer registered on multiple platforms tried to upload two same invoices on multiple platforms, the transactions which gets financed on any one platform will take precedence, and only that transaction will go through. The second platform won't be able to process that invoice any further. So this blockchain technology has also given confidence to the banking fraternity, because they know that if a particular invoice has been financed once, it is unlikely or it's not possible that the same invoice is being financed anywhere on or on the same platform. So that was the intent for which the blockchain technology was enabled, and we were actually the early adopters of this technology.
Oh, okay, okay, great. I think that brings a lot of comfort actually. Since I think someone is asking about on bike, is that a lot of regulations keep on changing, and then even in platform, maybe you keep on updating things. I think lately RBI also included insurance companies to be financiers, or some kind of regulation change was came. So how do you actually keep because um, uh, I think the summary of the question is that sometimes it's too complex in terms of keeping updated with what's happening, new regulations and new processes. So how, as in A-Trade, is taking initiatives to keep MSMEs updated about these changes coming on platform, or via through regulations or through your own processes? So how do you? I mean, I'm sure you would be doing interactive programs, but how do you keep them updated on this, so that they also remain in a bit comfort? Because don't people don't want multiple changes taking place every now and then.
Hello, hello, am I audible?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
I can hear you, Amit.
Right. Sorry, I lost you for a while. So answering to your question, uh, we said that we are a RBI regulated entity. So whatever directions, guidances which RBI keeps on issuing from time to time, be it change in trades policy, be it change in the processes which needs to be followed, are communicated pretty clear by the authorities to us. Uh, uh, we are a compliant organization when we abide by all the stipulations and the prescriptions given by our regulator, and they are immediately put to effect in terms of any changes and the communication which immediately needs to be transpired to our participant, be it financing machinery up T crores was now classified as a
Seems we have lost Amit's connection. Let him rejoin. But I see I have allowed, Sunita Tupusundre. You wanted to add something, or you wanted to ask some question. You can unmute and talk. Okay. I Anyways, so I think we'll then since both of them are not speaking, and we'll wait if Amit can join and maybe later on complete. Uh, but let's move on to our then second presentation, because I mean most of the question he already answered. And let me invite now Sanat Das, who's the AGM at SIDBI, to give his presentation. I think Amit has just joined, is joining, it seems. So, well, Sanak, we just give one minute. Yeah. Amit, I think we lost the connection with you.
Yes, I also realized that I was speaking without the connectivity.
Okay. Yeah, you are actually anyways closing the third RBI regulation part.
Yes. I was saying on conducting workshops with Reserve Bank of India, the Chartered Accountant community, the MSME community, and we keep on educating them as to what changes have been incorporated and get benefited. I'm not sure if you were able to hear when the guidelines stipulating the change in the MSME earlier, it was primarily on the basis of the plant and machinery criteria and services and manufacturing entities, which was capped at 5 crores and 10 crores respectively for when it got changed and Udyam was incorporated drastically, because anyone with domestic turnover up to 50 crores was now given a criteria of classification of MSME vendor. So we were able to cover a good
I think we are
also there
again,
was some trading.
sorry, I think we are still losing you in between.
I think there is some network is slightly unstable at my end.
Yeah. Okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have been able to assist the MSME vendors, and we have been able to guide them and bring any changes which have been prescribed by the regulator, which has actually helped the vendors in knowing better, using our platform better, and getting their associations with the corporate buyers and helping out other MSME vendors also while registering with us.
Okay. So thank you. I think Amit, that was an interesting presentation. Thank you for answering those questions. I hope it is beneficial for the attendees, who are participating in today's program. And in general, this particular presentation and discussion would be available on FICCI YouTube channel as well, so people can go back and refer it. Thank you, Amit, for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Sanak, over to you. Sanak, can you hear me? I think you have unmuted yourself, but I'm not sure. We're not able to hear you. We are still unable to hear you. I think it's just we see unmuted, but it's not, the voice is not coming. We'll wait for a minute till Sanak gets some assistance, on the IT side. Or otherwise, maybe Sanak, you can re-log in as well and check. We will just maybe invite in between Premesh to give his, talk, and then maybe you can rejoin. Premesh, can you hear me?
I am audible?
Yeah, now you are audible.
Yes, thanks. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Pramesh, for joining. We were just trying to see that that presentation happens, but I think Sanak is finding a little difficulty. So I know that we had certain confusion on the participation, but I would request if you can maybe briefly talk about what IFC is doing on the green financing, and whatever points you can touch upon. It'll be helpful to understand, and then maybe we can have another opportunity to give a full presentation.
Thanks, Deepak. Thanks for providing this wonderful opportunity to present on this access to finance. So as we know that MSMEs are very critical, more than 63 million MSMEs contributing more than 30% to GDPs. So that is very important to understand whether finance is available to them. And as per some reports, there is a gap of 20 to 25 trillion finance to them. So because every large company, everybody would like to extend the credit facilities, but in case of MSMEs, just because of this collateral mechanism or recourse financing, there is a problem with banks also to extend facilities. So we have to understand the problem from a holistic perspective rather than just a piecemeal basis, because it requires a lot of support. So first of all, some major issues are high upfront cost. If they would like to decarbonize their existing supply chain, they are very small players. So it's lack of awareness, lack of technology, lack of knowledge, and lack of expertise, and limit access to finance. And they are also resistance to change, because let's say currently their EBITDA margins is around 5 to 10%. They are happy with that. They don't want to scale up. They are not understand at this point of time the what basically the global level requirement is upcoming. Let's say European Union recently going to launch the CBM carbon tax. So we have to understand from that perspective. So green financing is very important from that perspective. So from a holistic support sort of thing, it's not possible for individual entity to extend finance. It's an integrated support. So as we are aware, government supports are there in case of capital subsidies. Earlier, government has extended a lot of capital grants in terms of setting up mega food parks, because for small players, practically it's not possible to create state-of-art facilities and green facilities at their premises. Let's say it's not possible to install ETPs, state-of-art packaging units, warehouses, cold storage, and all those things for small units. So that's why government had launched a number of schemes like for textile parks, setting of leather parks or mega food parks, under which basically it's possible that government is providing 50% capital. Let's say in case of mega food park, government is extending 50 crore rupees to that developer. That is almost 50% of TPC, total project cost. So if that kind of support is there, then definitely viability is there. Then if that kind of viability is there, support is there, it's a grant from government side, and definitely banks and any international multilateral or bilaterals are willing to extend the finance. And also it's a pooling of resources required. It's not possible to fund MSMEs through the conventional collateral system. We have to understand. So there's a bigger role for credit rating agencies to just to have a credit worthiness, because we know uh, those low or MSMEs don't have the rating system. So that's why it's very imperative to enhance their credit worthiness. They have to have their credit ratings to basically to have the confidence of the innovative financiers. Other important point is development of green bond market. So everybody right now, the green bond market is growing rapidly because large corporates are committed to their net zero target. So another way is because scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 level emissions are there, and specifically IFC focused on industrial decarbonization part. So large players are totally focused on their scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 decarbonization. It's practically not possible because these MSMEs are acting as a critical part of their supply chain. So it's a great opportunity for large players to integrate their total supply chain to reduce this scope level 3 emissions. So it's a collaborative approach. It's not because its players are small. Let's say if you consider a case of agri input company. So if they are providing those agri inputs, but farmers are not in a position to basically pay back just because of various natural calamities or any issues pertaining to recent climate change. So in that case, we have to look from that perspective. It's an integrated phenomenon we have to provide. Let's say it starts from soil diagnosis, because it's the important factor is what you need actually. So if soil diagnosis is perfect, then basically you know what exactly you require. On the basis of soil diagnosis, you can assess that yes, I need this kind of inputs to increase my yield, and definitely if I am providing, I am extending. So it's a closed loop system. One person is also providing a finance as well as diagnosis, advisory, and end-to-end tech services to all players to make sure that yes, definitely what we are looking, finally we are able to achieve that. Another important aspect to provide finance is NBFC's customized structured products, because various multiple sectors are there, multiple persons are there, their needs are different. So NBFCs are required to basically customize or structure their product as per their requirements. So a lot of innovation is required. And from public sector side, bank side, number of interest subvention schemes are there to support textile sector and other sectors. So similar sort of interest subvention schemes are required to promote sustainability and green finance. And initially it looks that it's a high level cost is there, but it's not like that, because let's say if you are shifting from a conventional energy to renewable energies, right now industrial units are more than 8 to 10 rupees. And if you consider the cost of solar and wind power for last 3 to 5 years, last 20 years, will come down to around 89% to 90%, so around 3 rupees. So initially it looks I'm putting some capex, but later on it's a huge benefits in terms of opex. So it's a sustainable thing. You have to be consider more as a lean manufacturing side. Initially you have to not just I'm just concentrating on one component to reduce that carbon emissions, but from the end-to-end cycle, that whatever I am using as a raw material, if I'm able to recycle it, reuse it, refurbish it, or reduce it, it's a possible or not. Then it's a great opportunity, because later on, if carbon tax and carbon mechanisms are there, then definitely these players which are basically willing to accept these sustainable practices, they are in a better place in comparison to other players. Other important is implementing life cycle assessment. So life cycle assessment is also important. So it can be used to evaluate the environmental impact of product throughout its entire life cycle, from raw material extraction to disposal. So that is very important. So end-to-end integration is also very important. Uh, with the help of these green sustainable practices, they can access new markets, gain a competitive advantage in the market. And right now, consumers and large players are also asking or demanding sustainable products. So if they are following such practice, definitely large players will definitely promote them, because they are able to reduce their scope 3 as scope 3 emissions. Important factors are there. They have to have some energy efficiency models, because it's not they are just following their conventional energy models, because I appraised number of projects when I was working with banks. So this is a basic problem there. Around 10 to 30% cost is towards this power charges only, because power supply is not there. Then in case they are totally dependent on DG sets and all those things, that is very high cost. So considering all those aspects, we have to consider energy efficiency models, water and waste management, carbon capture and storage things, and another is integrated way. So that's it from my end.
Okay, thank you, Pramesh. Can you just also give us a little bit of idea on how IFC is working in India and what is the institutional mechanism, wherever probably you are doing projects or investing in green projects, then how do you an end beneficiary sort of take or user take benefit out of it? So anything you can give, you're working with state governments or other institutions or institution like NABARD or even else. So how do you actually functions in this particular space?
So primarily, we are exploring the overall ecosystem to support that particular sector, or the government support is not there, because as earlier mentioned, it's practically not possible to provide finance. It's an integrative approach, because as we know that government is concentrating a lot on renewable energy as per their net zero commitments by 2070. So a lot of subsidies are there, roof solar tops and all those things. So it's a great opportunity in those fields. So we are exploring even EV space also, but that is more pertaining to a little bit large players. But specifically solar renewable energy, IFC is too much concentrating, because we know it's a right opportunity for us to extend financing, because a lot of government and institutional support is there. Overall structural support is required to make it a viable and sustainable position. And we are also having a lengthy discussions with large players, because they are willing to reduce their scope 3 emissions. And if they are willing to support those suppliers and small players, then definitely it's a win-win situation, not for them, but for the whole supply chain. So that is our whole agenda to invest.
Okay, and what about the technical assistant in terms of developing know-how? Because develop one way is that you're committing to these goals and sustainability goal, but at the same time finding a right kind of product or service is also a challenge, because I just experienced this when we went to UK with a sustainability delegation. And there were a number of companies with us, large companies with us, who said that they are seeking to address the sustainability issue. They are seeking this kind of assistance. However, wherever we have gone or talked, most of the time, the technology or any kind of product or services either is in pilot stage or it's in a stage which is not really fully commercialized. So how does IFC actually help in developing these technical capabilities as well, product innovation and related areas, so that you're not just providing a financing or funding, but at the same time you're making sure that it goes in the right direction. So how does IFC work in that space?
Sure. Got your point. So the important point to be noted here is that we have a large advisory wing. Basically, we believe in end-to-end services, not just IFC is extending private financing to private players. Initially, we believe that every project is a special and that needs to be structured and developed appropriately to understand the whole ecosystem, conditions, financing, technical aspects, and all those. Being a global player, we have tie up with a lot of latest technology suppliers already financed in developed countries as well as developing countries. So we understand about the technology. So whenever we approach any client, we have end-to-end approach. We provide basic involve a lot of time and effort goes into the development of project concept to understand. And also we are doing a lot of resource efficiency measurement surveys and detailed feasibilities to understand their baseline parameters. And on the basis of that, let's say baseline parameters, and on the basis of that feasibility, we are able to figure it out that right now, okay, these are the baseline parameters and these are the opportunities, let's say in waste management, water, technological, renewable energy, or a lot of energy efficient systems. Just replacement of some old equipments with latest ones where basically less energy consumption is there. So considering that, we will devise a whole decarbonization roadmap for private players. And odd band basis, once agreed, we will start implementing those projects. So it's very easier for us as well as for them, because it's a detailed exercise. It's not just on the basis of any projects we are extending financing, but we are doing a detailed analysis from the ground basis, the developing of the concept node, then the resource efficiency surveys, feasibility analysis, then understanding the needs, what are required, and how it is basically benchmarking with vis-a-vis global latest technologies. Then only we suggest, and finally a complete decarbonization roadmap to those companies. And definitely they would like to invest, because they understand that considering the present regulatory regime, it is very important for them to follow the latest sustainability. Otherwise, within next 5 to 10 years, it is definitely not possible for them to sustain. So it's not a initial capex I'm putting, but it's a future. Basically, I'm investing in a future and to become competitive and reap the benefits. So that is how we are looking from project, from the concept to end-to-end financing, and as well as we are into definitely innovative financial instruments like green bonds or other bonds also. So it's a lot of structuring is there from our investment team also.
Okay, okay. And Pramesh, last one, are there any, way you are working on setting up, say, green financing standards in India, or are you working with any associations or anyone, to see that, there are global standards when it comes to green financing? So anything are you doing on that space as well?
Yes, we have a lot of divisions already. We have green buildings specification standards in place, and a lot of other teams have various eco. We have this standards for green economic industrial parks. We have this benchmarking, and also for green buildings. So very respective teams are working, and definitely it's on key priorities areas of IFC to develop green or sustainability standards for every domain.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Pramesh. I think, I don't know, there's no question as such, probably because there was, okay. Yeah, so I don't see any questions here, but I think these were the things which we thought we could ask you from an IFC point of view, that how at this institutional level, IFC is working towards supporting the sustainability goals at India level. Obviously, you are a global organization, so you are doing, work across countries, but specific focus, with India, what kind of initiatives IFC has taken. So thank you for giving us a bit of a brief that how IFC is working in this particular area, and I hope that will be beneficial to our participant. Uh,
Thanks.
Now let me just go back to Sanak if he's able to give his presentation. Sanak, can you please recheck again? We have your presentation, so even if we are able to hear you, we can share the presentation from our end, and probably uh, do it in that way if we are unable to share the presentation.
Am I audible right now?
Yes,
Just
you
trying
are audible.
to, yeah, I'm
But
just
you may
trying
have
to join to mobile.
yeah, you may have to switch off another. I think you are logged in two device, so we have an echo.
Yeah, just I have to check out from one.
I'll mute it. No, I'll just mute it. Can you just talk now?
Yeah, I'm audible right now, no? But
Yeah,
see,
well,
I'm joining to my mobile, so I couldn't able to present the PPT. So could you help me out in this regard?
Pradeep, can you please share?
Sharing his presentation.
So we can see your presentation. You can just tell next and Pradeep will change it.
Okay, thank you, Pradeep. Thanks for the insightful presentation by Mr. Amit and Mr. Pramesh. I think the audio is very echoing. Could you just mute this mic, please?
I think all the mics are muted, so something at your end is creating that echo noise. Maybe you can just log out from the other device.
Just a minute. Is it okay right now?
Yeah, now it is. There's no echo now.
Okay, okay. Thank you for giving the opportunity, Mr. Deepak, and also to Vicky. See, SIDBI, you all must be knowing that SIDBI is the principal financial institution in promoting and developing the MSMEs in India. It's set up under the Statutory Act of Parliament in 1990, on April 2nd of 1990. Since 32 years, SIDBI is in the service of the nation and building the MSME strong and steady. As per this, Amit Dua's presentation, Mr. Amit Dua's presentation is concerned, this factoring and reverse factoring is concerned, you almost be knowing that SIDBI is the front runner in introducing this bill discounting scheme in India. After that, after which the most of the financial players has joined the queue, and SIDBI also into the invoice discounting factoring through on the RXL. So I can very well connect with Mr. Amit Dua's presentation also. And the presentation for the Primesh is also insightful. SIDBI is also into the green financing right now, promoting and having a joint hand with the World Bank. And in the direction of the Government of India, we are also doing the lot many things under the green financing sector. So as far as the presentation is concerned, so I'll come back directly to the presentation. SIDBI is the front runner in financing and developing the MSME. So we are having a 4 trillion balance sheet for the last financial year, and we are aiming to achieve a 5 trillion balance sheet. So last year also we have jumped from 2.5 trillion INR to 4 trillion INR in the last 1 year itself. So that itself tells about the SIDBI's presence in the market and SIDBI's penetration in the market. SIDBI has a long network of 97 branches throughout India. So majorly focusing on the development of the MSMEs. So SIDBI has a being of operation SIDBI into direct and indirect financing. Direct, they say we are directly dealing, extending the finance to the MSMEs, and also indirectly through banks also and NBFCs also. We are playing a major role in development of the MSMEs. As far as direct finance is concerned, there are a lot many products and product of bouquet products we are offering, like term loans, working capital, non-fund based financings. The term loan for starting from the setting of business, expansion of business, and purchase of machinery, capital expenditure, and specifically at present the rooftop solar for captive consumptions. We are into the major thrust area of that SIDBI. Apart from into the regular working capital as the normal commercial banks are offering, the regular working capital CC limits, obviously with the platform of the other banks, tied up banks, since we are not a scheduled commercial bank. Then for working capital term loan also, including the bouquet products of bank guarantees and letter of credit. Pradeep, could you just next slide, please? So in the way to the extending the finance, SIDBI has in last 7 to 8 years has digitized all its operations for credit operations, starting from the onboarding of the customers to loan applications, underwriting sanctions to legal documents, and disbursement and monitoring. All the things have been digitized without having the bare minimum manual intervention at the time of the mostly the documentation and the disbursements into the legal documents involve the local state revenue laws for the stamp papers and all these things. So that thing come into play while the digitization is concerned, manual intervention is concerned. So in many of the states also we have tied up with the STREAL for the complete digitized documentation without even the promoter coming to our branch itself. And sitting on their desk on the best through their mobile, they can execute the documents And also we have given the access to the customers for the login access to the customer. They can give the request for the disbursements for the loans. And monitoring also, all the things have been digitized. We have roped in the AI tools and lot many tools like Jakota and Swara platform. We have introduced for that for deciding the sanctioning process also. Next, please. So apart in various products, right now the flagship product which are running right now, which is the hot cake and with the quick dispensation system, the express loans have been promoted by our bank in recent 1 and 2 years. This express loans concerned to provide expedience and sanction through automated platform. It is expected to sanction the loans within 1 day. So for the plant, the main focus thrust area for this loans are the financing of the plant and machinery and installation of rooftop solars for captive users. Key features of the scheme is straight through process loan up to 100% financing, which hardly any bank in the financial sector offers to as on date. So most of the loans of CDBs are being offered on the 100% financing basis with TL in INR rupees within days of 10 lakhs to 1 crore. So most of the borrowers are mapped under this scheme are existing operating customers having vintage of 3 years with good civil track record. Feed track up to 8. It's a feed track has been developed with the civil and inbound inside software metrics that has been developed for the based on the AI tool to decide on the automated sanctioning process. Also the Jakota for the based on the GST based smart report that we have roped in. So that is Jakota report up to JBBB minus. We will be financing for that same with a maximum turnover of 1/3 of the total turnover during the trailing 12 months. Rates are being offered with the MCLR link, which is at present 8.2% per annum, with a repayment period of 5 years with moratorium of 6 months being offered under the express loans. Next, please. The next big scheme under this our this direct term loaning and umbrella is the 4E financing. This 4E financing has been offered with the tie-up of the World Bank. The financing under the financing we offer a very competitive rate. In fact, I can vouch for that. It must be the lowest rate in the industry as on date. This scheme involves revolving fund scheme for financing end-to-end energy efficiency investments in MSME. The objective of the scheme is for implementing energy efficiency measures with the including capex, plant and machinery, civil works for implementing energy efficiency measures as recommended in the DPR. Specifically in this project, we don't promote the second-hand machinery financing as in case of other schemes. Under this scheme also we promote the extend the 100% financing with maximum term loan of 5 CR with competitive rate of interest. As on date, the rate of interest is at around 8%. So that is the lowest rate in the market as on date. With the eligibility of MSME units manufacturing for service sector, plant and machinery under the project to energy efficient machines. That under this scheme, the promoter should be having 1 year experience. So it is not like that in all products we are harping for this 3 years of existence. So here one person having the 1 year of existence can approach SIDBI for the funding with the condition that they are with a good financial track record of the banks. So under this, competitive fees are being offered, processing fees, competitive rates offered, 5 to 7 years of repayment track record, also repayment schedule is being offered under this scheme, 4E financing scheme. This financing scheme has been offered, developed for encouraging the MSMEs to adopt the cleaner technologies and green technologies for the production process, and for that, and energy which will save the powers. Next, please. Next scheme, which is the flagship scheme right now, is coming the green finance scheme. This green finance scheme is also focused on the solar and wind, hydro, renewable energies with mitigation, including energy efficiency and cleaner production. adaptation of water management and wastewater treatment also. So, the basic difference between the 4E scheme and the green finance scheme is that 4E scheme is having capped at 5 CR per borrower, but this scheme has been to promote the greener approach for the production. So that has been have maximum term loan project of 20 CR is offered to the MSMEs. Here also loan up to 100% of the project cost is being covered. Apart from this 4E loan, under this loan we also offer the loan under the foreign currency also. The term loan, maximum term loan for service provider and aggregator subject to maximum MSME linkage of 50 CR is being offered. Here the eligibility borrowers are all types of manufacturing services, RESCOs, ESCOs, EPCs, vendors, etc. All are covered under this scheme, which are not covered under the 4E schemes. MSME is either on supply or demand side of the green value chain. MSME is executing the projects and providing services related to the activities eligible under the scheme. Other features are also as our other products being offered with a competitive processing fee and competitive rate of interest with a repayment period up to 10 years, as against the earlier products of 5 to 7 years. Next, please. Latest in the row, which is offered in with the recent entrant in the product, is the eGPS scheme. Is the Express Green Powers for Sustainability. This is the extension of this 4E scheme. So for the quicker dispensation, quicker dispensation, lightning fast dispensation product is being offered by SIDBI. To provide the financial assistance for green projects, the installation of solar rooftop captive projects, capex including transit from the diesel to petrol fuel to PNG, CNG, other green and clean initiatives aimed at reduction of carbon emission, waste management, etc. That is being promoted under this scheme. The key features is also like the straight-through process to give in principle sanction, loan up to 100% of the project cost, term loan in rupees, a term loan with 5 lakhs to 1 crore. So here the main highlight of this scheme is that we can offer loan as less as than 5 lakhs also. So that's why this is a straight-through process. That's why more and more MSMEs we can rope in. This product being developed in that fashion. Is MSME is having vintage of 3 years and cash profit of 2 years, and shouldn't have been moved beyond SMA 0 in last 1 year. So since it's a straight-through project, we have kept a financial discipline as a foremost parameter for deciding on the MSMEs and selecting the MSME borrowers. So with a good repayment track record and having good financial discipline, all the customers are being promoted and offered loans under this product with a competitive rate of interest, having good civil track record, as against the other schemes. Street rank 6 is being considered against street rank 8 in other schemes. With a repayment schedule of 5 years and a competitive rate and processing fee. Next, please. This is the Arjana scheme. Arjana scheme has been developed with a main focus on the women entrepreneurs to support the MSME promoted by women entrepreneurs by term loan assistance on relatively softer terms, setting up new as well as greenfield units, capital expenditure, land and building, plant and machinery. So as against the other schemes where most of the schemes is focused towards the existing customers, here we have developed this particular product to offer the women entrepreneurs who wants to initiate the new project, set up a new project, greenfield project. So there is no threshold is being set up for the promoters. The plant and machinery is also considered. The incentive for the prompt repayment is also being offered under this scheme. Additional benefits on JET certificate holders. So whosoever women entrepreneurs having a JET certificate up to for JET certification, they are also given a financial incentive under the scheme. Low processing charges, term loan in the range of 25 lakh to 3 CR is being offered. So greenfield and brownfield both are eligible. Customers are eligible. Women entrepreneurs with minimum 51% stake, since this is a product focused for the encouraging the women entrepreneurs. So majority stake should be with the women promoters with good civil track record, maximum exposure up to 3 CR, with a competitive rate of interest and MCLR linked interest rate, repayment for 7 years, moratorium up to 2 years. As per the other schemes are concerned, where the moratorium has been set up as maximum 6 months, and here the moratorium has been offered with 2 years, so that they can sustain in the longer run, and they can give the time to stand this their business. Next, please.
Janak, may I ask you one question? When you write relatively softer terms, or so what that relative would be? Any
See the
lower rates
mains.
of few basis point, or how does that work?
Yeah, that I will offer that. At present, people compare the major lenders in the sector is like SBI, HDFC banks, which generally taken as the market leaders in this financial sector. Their offer as on date in base rate is around 9.5%, where the maximum rate under any scheme is considered, we can take it as a maximum is 9% maximum rate at present is there. Most of these schemes like 4E schemes are being directly linked to the repo, while few schemes like this Arjana scheme are being linked to the MCLR, which is also lowest in the market, like 8.2% as on date.
Okay. And you have good response for it, because why I was asking this question, because I'm not sure whether you are aware that the Maharashtra government has a women entrepreneur policy. They had partnered with Yes Bank and IDBI, if I'm not wrong, earlier during the beginning of this. And then one of the good thing in your presentation was that you have asked women entrepreneurship equity to be 51%, whereas in that policy it is 100%. They are providing 1% subvention, but that 1% subvention again is not really brings a very competitive rate. So because of that, the policy is not working. So that's why this is very interesting to see that at least you don't have that clause of 100% equity. And then if you are saying that 8.2 or some related rates which are relatively cheaper, then it should. So you any idea in terms of what is the uptake of this scheme, or if this is being really promoted
this scheme is a new entrant in our product bouquet, so that has been a good response in particularly in North India. We are picking up in particular as far as Maharashtra is concerned. The product is being picked up Pune region specifically in a good response. As you have told, that is a very correct thing, that we have not stipulated for the 100% stakeholder, because we believe that if, as the say goes, that for every successful man there is a woman, for every successful man there is also a man. So without the support of the family members, be it a man, be it a woman, everybody needs a family support. So stipulating the thing is that to take a 100%
I think we also submitted this to government, that it should be majority stakeholder. Women should be a majority stakeholder, not the wholesale stakeholder. So I think they never understood that point. But this is good, at least from SIDBI point of view, that this has come.
And in this particular product,
so we have FICCI Flow also, FICCI Ladies Organization, and which is also a partner in this program. So we would probably like to share this with them, and then see maybe sometime later if we can do a program only focusing, talking about the nitty-gritty of this particular scheme.
Sure. And also the best part of the SIDBI is that we are also flexible in taking up the suggestion from the stakeholders in the market in devising the specific products also. If any need be to tweak in this product also, our management is very positive in this regard. I can vouch for that. Coming to this next slide, this RI scheme. This is also our flagship scheme for last 3 to 4 years. This scheme has been devised to re-enhance the capital investment in MSMEs, for the expansion and modernization and capital expenditure in the MSMEs. That with the attractive rate of interest, as I told, that all the products which we are offering is having the lowest in this particular sector, SIDBI finance sector. Was loan up to 7 crores is being offered, subject to 80% of total project cost. 100% financing up to 5 CR also being offered, with a very faster and quicker dispensation. Offering a product to MSMEs doesn't serve the purpose if you not offer the process, straight through process and quicker dispensation. Ultimately, the borrower is concerned about the disbursement and the setting of the project. So our development of the all the products are focused on the end-to-end solution, giving the end-to-end solution and setting of the end use of the sanction of the loan. So sanctioning a loan doesn't serve a purpose until unless that is disbursed. So eligibility under the scheme arises minimum 2 years of operations with audited accounts for last 2 years. Cash profit in last audited accounts. So satisfactory civil and CMR norms. So moreover, if you go through the financial sector, that most of the banks are relying on the civil score and the civil CMR score and the civil personal score also. Apart from this, we have developed this fit rank recently, or developed the fit rank to under the AI tool for quicker automated decision making. With this RI scheme also offered with the competitive rates, and this particular product is directly linked to the RBI repo rate with the repayment up to 7 years and moratorium up to 2 years. These are flagship product. Next, please. Next in the bouquet is the Stapan, Siddhi thematic assistance for purchase of capital assets in new enterprises. Objective of this scheme is to finance for the greenfield businesses, as in the Arjuna scheme also. This is land for the greenfield schemes. Just a minute. Am I audible right now? Hello?
Yes,
you are.
yes,
Yes.
Oh, sorry for the this minute. Sorry, there was some network issues there. So Stapan scheme is focused at the financial assistance of the greenfield businesses for land and industrial plot, as not in case of other products. Other products are focused basically for the productive assets like machinery and power saving equipments like solar rooftop, all these things. Here the main focus is on the large setting of the complete project, including the land building, civil constructions, and machinery, all in a one scheme. Here the maximum loan is up to 20 CR, like in the green finance scheme, of subject to maximum 75% of the project. In green finance, we can finance up to 100% of the project with attractive rate of interest, quicker sanction. Target MSMEs in identified sectors under the product linked incentive schemes. So you must all be aware that Government of India has launched the PLI scheme for sectors like chemical, pharmaceuticals, and all these things, which some of the PLIs is being also managed by the SIDBI also, like pharmaceuticals. The higher goods and sunrise sector are also included in under the Stapan scheme. Eligibility under this scheme is for new entities and greenfield entities, promoters with a minimum experience of 3 to 5 years. Here we are not stipulating the condition for these existing enterprises, but promoters must have some experience, prior experiences for this loan, because we are offering a 20 CR of loan. So experience is a vital thing for this scheme. Loans above experience of 3 to 5 years and loans of 3 crore and 5 crore respectively. Promoters contribution is 25% has been stipulated as against the industry norm for the new greenfield loans of 33%. Satisfactory civil and CMR norms is a basic requirement for all the products. Competitive, as far as other products are concerned, here the repayment period is up to 7 years, moratorium to 2 years, with a competitive processing fee and rate of interest. Next, please. It is specifically, the scheme has been developed star scheme for the rooftop solar rooftop plants, a dedicated scheme for the rooftop solar PV plants. The main objective of the scheme is financial assistance to existing businesses for setting up the solar PV rooftop plants on its premises. Ground mount solar plants subject to unhindered availability of sunlight. Both standalone and grid connected plants will be covered. Key feature is that up to 1 megawatt with solar rooftop plants is being financed under this product with an attractive rate of interest sanction as in case of other products or concerned. 2 years of vintage for existing customers, 3 years of vintage for new customers. Cash profit in last 2 financial years with a civil and CMR satisfactory civil and CMR norms. And the moratorium period is offered in this scheme is 6 to 12 months with the repayment period up to 5 years. You can extend it up to 7 years. So we can all vouch that the solar is a additional capital investment on the part of the borrowers. So whosoever borrower having a good cash flow, they only decide for that solar rooftop plants in few years back. So to promote the clean energy and the government, we are offering this scheme for this that encouraging the borrowers to go for the solar plants because the operating a productive asset and factory with a rooftop which is not getting utilized is a negative thing for the unit. So we are basically encouraging the borrowers to utilize that rooftop which is not getting utilized by way of covering this rooftop with the solar panels. So then that way they can also save the energy also. That is the main focus area for under the star scheme. Next, please. USP product also offered by SIDBI. This is the export offered to the export-oriented MSMEs under the Ubarte Sitare program. This under this scheme, the term loan to export-oriented MSMEs are future export champions with higher potential for expansion, modernization, diversification, technology upgradation, R&D, etc. has been offered for these MSMEs. Key features are loan up to 80% of the project cost, term loan in rupee and foreign currency is being offered under this scheme with promoters contribution of 20%. So here the promoters to encourage the export-oriented units. So the product is being offered with a lesser promoters contribution of 20% under this scheme. Technical assistance for the mentorship support and performance milestone-linked incentive scheme also being offered as the inbuilt thing in this scheme. Target group are future export champions with high potential, high export potential, that is automobiles, A&D, IT, ITS, pharma, etc. Other features are competitive rate of interest based on the MCLR. This directly linked to the MCLR, which is also competitive as far as current market conditions are concerned, with repayment period of 6 years and extent of 10 years. So the export-oriented, our focus to promote the export-oriented units. So longer tenure loans are being offered under this scheme. Next. As I have said earlier, that we are also offering the working capital facility to the borrowers to meet the under this working capital facility. We offer the regular working capital requirement to the for business. Majorly focus area for the working capital customers are that whosoever are solely banking with SIDBI and doesn't have any other banking facility with other banks. We should that should not be left out. So we are offering this working capital products to those customers specifically. In addition to the customers, we are opting to offer the SIDBI itself for the better rate of interest. So the eligibility under this scheme are for who are solely banking with SIDBI existing as well as performing existing well-performing business who do not enjoy working capital facility with other banks. As you all be knowing that the major working capital bankers are generally the commercial banks. New entities where term loan is considered by SIDBI greenfield units. We also offer the working capital to them also. Satisfactory civil and CMR norms is a basic requirement for as far as other products are concerned. Normal working capital products, as in case of other commercial banks, this working capital products are offered for 1 year, the date of sanction, with a renewal on every year. Next, please. Next in our product is our step scheme that SIDBI's term loan to enhance production to MSMEs. This is basically a working capital term loan is being offered. So there are a lot many customers who do not want to avail the CC limit as they think that this will this is a continued loan, and they want to get rid of the loan in a phased manner. So that for them this product is best suited. Apart from those customers to who are opting for a sudden requirement of working capital, so this product is being also offered. So this finance assistance to existing businesses in the form of working capital term loan for MSMEs for augmenting net working capital and or to the urgent confirmed orders, as I told earlier. Incremental working capital requirement may also be funded after satisfying about the non-enhanced or the regular limit. Key features of the product are overall exposure of 3 crores for existing customers and 2 crores for new customers. Both on rupee and foreign currency assistance could be considered with the quicker sanction. 2 years of interest for the existing customers, 3 years of interest for new customers, operating profit for 2 years. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So these are the all products which are getting offered by SIDBI. So any questions?
Let me check if someone is asking on Fiki Bike, if any question is there. Sanak, there is an this is some innovation fund is also there. How does one take care of that? Utilize that. You have an innovation fund, right?
Yeah, a specific innovation fund under the Ministry of Science and Technology also is there. There's a small fund is there. The fund is specifically meant for the latest innovations and implement technology. So that has been taken care by the SIDBI also.
But
So,
I think someone the question I think they're asking, is it specific to green product development, or just across any, or you have some shortlisted areas under which
there is no
shortlisted
shortlisted things is there. There is no shortlisted thing is there. If the newer technology is there, there is a committee is there to take care of the things to select the proposal for the same.
So how does that work if someone needs to really go to the committee, and can you just
see, they can approach the SIDBI nearest SIDBI branch, that they can SIDBI branch will put up this proposal before the committee for the approval of the project. Then only they can be covered under that fund.
And you do have that MSME platform also, so you can't really go through that. You necessarily need to go to the branch as well.
So for everything, not all things are not getting online. So there is specific fund is there and limited fund is there. So for that you need to approach the branch. Otherwise, the things will not work.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Just asking. Someone is asking whether this facility is available and how to reach out to
They can very well reach out to the contact numbers are there over the platform. Website is there and through our internet is there. So they can also reach us over phone also. There is no
right. And I maybe I'm not sure whether it's a relevant question out here, but on the green financing side, and I was asking Premesh also similar question. How do you see the uptake of green financing actually coming from MSME side? Because in our survey, I mean, the first worry is all about the implementation is not really cost efficient. So how do you think through your platform or SIDBI green financing, this can become a little more compelling argument for MSMEs to adopt? So can you give any sense or argument on that for people who are looking at green financing, or rather pushing the green financing to MSMEs?
See, Deepak, most of the time this green financing is being seen in a negative way for the basic requirement that the cost is higher. So I believe that the cost might be a little bit higher as far as the traditional technology is concerned, But the best part is that there, whosoever is adopting the green financing thing, the productivity will be definitely will increase. First point. Second point is that as far as growth is concerned, MSMEs should look forward towards more exports. So for exports, you must be knowing that like in foreign overseas markets, they also tag your products with a lesser carbon emissions and all these things. So for that, you need to adopt for the greener technology to if you want to expand in future. So this is the demand of the time and requirement of the market also, that you adopt to the green technology as soon as possible, so that you will be market ready for all the things.
Okay, okay. And that, coming back to that women entrepreneurship, under this, I think this is what Saki you
Arjana scheme. Arjana
Saki.
scheme.
No, okay. So you do any kind of mentorship program also for women, entrepreneurs, apart when you are looking at, financing them? At the same time, are you also doing some kind of a mentorship, exercise from SIDBI?
Yes, we do a mentorship program under our P&D activities. For that, there are separate teams are there. It is not under the direct finance scheme that dedicated teams are there, under which we will tie up with the external agencies and other market players in those particular mentors, handholding and mentorship are there as concerned. So we do take care of this mentorship and all the things.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I'm just meanwhile keep on refreshing, checking if there is any other question coming. Okay, so I think no more question on this. So Sanak, thank you very much for providing us or taking us through various schemes of SIDBI currently going on, and how MSMEs can qualify and benefit from them. As I said, green MSMEs, women entrepreneurship, these are some of the areas we at FICCI Maharashtra are closely working, with our members. And we would like to do probably, sort of expanded sort of a programs and hand holding on these subjects. We'll come back to you and SIDBI, whoever is responsible for, this. But for the time being, I would like to really thank all our three speakers for today's session, who gave us some ideas about, how access to finance, can be availed through these, various institutions and platforms, and what are the latest, going on in it. And we will resume, as there is an Eid holiday tomorrow. We will resume the last day of this particular MSME week on on Friday, June 30th, at 2:30 p.m. The focus of the session would be on global MSME. The development commissioner would be participating in it and sharing the information about what are the initiatives and schemes taken at state level for exports. We will also have speaker talking about the various FTAs, such as India, UAE, SEPA, and how it is going to benefit MSMEs. We'll also have someone who will deconstruct the foreign trade policy 2023 and what is in it for MSME exporters, and then a bit about the insurance part for exporters from ECDC. So these are the presentations which are lined up for the last day on June 30th, and we look forward to meeting all our participants on Friday again. Till then, have a good day and good holiday, and take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepak.